Hearthstone has existed for 10 years, and in those 10 years, there are over 5,000 cards with 33 card sets to choose from. Of course, across all of those, there are going to be cards that you, me, and other people have forgotten. Well, not me. Unless you're like me and you spend all day looking at the card website just for fun, you've probably forgotten all of these cards. So, subscribe if you want to learn them all, just like me.
Ungoro Crater is coming sooner than later.
Journey to Ungoro. It is the first expansion to be released in 2017, and it's the first expansion to actually give us 2 legendaries per class. It's very interesting. So, let's go through and talk about some cards that I know for a fact most of the people watching can't even remember. Now, I specifically mentioned there are 2 legendaries, so let's start, of course, with a legendary. Sherazin Corpse Flower. Of course, because of Sherazin's effect, it was actually quite good during Journey to Ungoro. You would be able to trade it off very efficiently, and then, after playing 4 cards in one turn, this seed would resummon the original Sherazin, quite similar to something like the Rat King in United in Stormwind. Another legendary I want to talk about is a little bit cheating. If you did play in this era, you very clearly, vividly remember this card, but a lot of people didn't play in 2017-2018, so they're never going to remember Hemet Jungle Hunter. Hemet, of course, was a 6-mana 6/6 with Battle Cry. Destroy all cards in your deck that cost 3 or less. This was used in tandem with Mecha'thun decks to be able to instantly destroy most of their deck to then perform a Mecha'thun combo. It was actually very good while Mecha'thun wasn't standard, and after it rotated, well, damn, Hemet didn't really get to do much anywhere in Wild. This video isn't just legendaries you forgot, though. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of very pointless and not very good cards that have been released over the years. Let's look at an expansion that's absolutely full of them.
You'll never be the same. This is a place of funky magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in Karazhan.
One Night in Karazhan. This is an expansion to remember. Nope. That's not the point of this video. It's such a forgettable expansion. There are so many cards to choose from in here that I came up with 3, and I don't want to do more because it feels like I'd just be talking about how Karazhan is forgettable. Karakazam, a 5-mana Warlock spell that reads, summon a 1/1 Candle, 2/2 Broom, and 3/3 Teapot. So, for this section of the video, it's going to be awkward because I can't really show footage for these cards because they're bad. They're objectively bad cards, and that's kind of why they're forgettable. So let's compare them to some other cards that have come out over the years. Karakazam is of course very similar to Force of Nature. They both summon the same amount of stats, 5 mana to summon 6/6 in stats spread across 3 minions. Except Force of Nature is a nerfed classic card that used to be significantly better. We can then compare Karakazam to a newer card in Bridge Riff. Bridge Riff is actually quite a good card. Of course, Riffs synergize together with themselves, and you might think on paper, oh, how are they that similar? It's the fact that Bridge Riff can play another Bridge Riff, so it summons significantly more stats, and they have Taunt and Rush. So not only is Karakazam a boring, uninteresting card, it's just worse than other cards that have been printed. And before you try and say, oh, you can play it with Defile, are you really going to spend 5 whole mana just to set up your Defile? No, you're not.
For the king!
Then we have Protect the King. On paper, this card probably wouldn't even be that bad if it just got a little bit of buff to maybe 1/2, but we've already seen a card like this be reprinted and be significantly better with a lot more stats. And that's Spreading Plague. You could be living under a rock, but you probably know what Spreading Plague is. It is a 6-mana druid spell that reads, summon a 1/5 Scarab with Taunt. If your opponent has more minions, cast this again. Of course, for 3 full more mana, getting +4 health on the Scarabs makes a lot of sense. Except, Spreading Plague used to cost 5 mana and not 6. So all that means is, Protect the King is just such a bad card. It honestly could be quite good, but they just didn't make it, and that's why it's forgotten. Now, if you're in the crowd that's complaining about goofy cards, you're definitely gonna hate this one. It is kinda stupid. It's Deadly Fork. Let's break this card down word for word. It is a 3-mana, 3/2 rogue common with Death Rattle, add a 3/2 weapon to your hand. Now let's compare that to a 1-mana minion, Imprison Gnarg. Gnarg reads, dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, equip a 3/2 axe, 1-mana, 2/2 demon. For 1 mana and -1 attack, Gnarg does everything that Deadly Fork does, except you don't have to pay 3 mana for that Deadly Fork weapon. It equips it for free. Yeah, you can understand why Deadly Fork is not a card that most people can even remember. I actually asked my Discord to try and guess this card specifically, and not a single person was able to.
Oh, welcome! Come warm your frozen boots by the fire.
Hearthstone Classic has so many iconic cards, like this one, and this one, and this one? What the heck is that one? If you hadn't guessed, there is a whole class of Hearthstone cards that basically don't actually exist. They don't belong to any expansions, they're core cards that were created for core and then rotated out, so they were given the Legacy tag. You can tell because some of these cards have keywords that didn't exist when Hearthstone first came out, such as Warsong Outrider. So let's play a little game. Is this a card that actually was in Legacy? I'm going to show you 3 cards that weren't in Legacy and 3 cards that were in Legacy. And I want you to tell me which ones actually were in Classic Hearthstone. If you guessed Felguard, Conceal, and Captain's Parrot, you'd actually be correct. A lot of you might be thinking, well, I've actually never seen these 2 cards before. How can that be? That's because they were both rotated early in Hall of Fame, way early on in the years of Hearthstone.
There's even pirates riding parrots! It's the grand tournament!
The Grand Tournament. I could make an entire video about how forgettable this expansion is. It was incredibly weak for the time, which obviously means it didn't hold up very well today. It introduced a mechanic that sadly did terribly in Inspire, even though the mechanic itself wasn't the issue. And man, are there a lot of forgettable cards. I mean, look at the Mistcaller. 6 mana 4/4 Undead Shaman Legendary. Battlecry, give all minions in your hand and deck +1/+1. This card was notoriously power crept by Keleseth. Yes, Keleseth doesn't do your hand, but it's 2 mana. So, there's that. It's very funny because the Mistcaller is also just worse than something like Wish Upon a Star. Wish Upon a Star, yes, it's 1 more mana, but it gives your hand, deck, and battlefield +2/+3. Significantly more stats. Fearsome Doomguard. I mean, this card is just, it's terrible. What do you expect? It is a textless minion that is a 7 mana 6/8 demon. Look at Worgen Greaser. 4 mana 6/5 for a textless minion. Do I need to say more about why Fearsome Doomguard is forgotten? Sea Reaver. 6 mana 6/7 undead. When you draw this, deal 1 damage to your minions. Yeah, this card is unplayable. And as such, absolutely forgotten. Well, that's gonna be it from me. So it'd really help if you guys could subscribe, like the video, and just leave a comment. It helps a lot. Did you forget any of these cards? Did you like this format of video? It really would mean a lot. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been.